Before Julius Caesar, Rome was already dying. Not from invasion, not from famine, not from plague, but from itself. For centuries, the Roman Republic had defined itself by one sacred principle. Power was divided among elected magistrates, assemblies of citizens, and the Senate. Authority was temporary. No man was meant to rule alone. Rome believed that tyranny began the moment one individual rose above the law. Yet by the 1st century BC, that ideal was rotting from the inside. The Senate had become a playground for the rich. Laws were written for profit, not justice. Elections were bought with bribes. Street violence was common, organized by politicians who used gangs as weapons. Generals commanded armies that were loyal not to Rome, but to the men who paid them. Rome still called itself a republic, but in truth, it was waiting for someone strong enough to take control. Into this world of corruption, fear, and ambition was born a man who would change history forever. His name was Gaius Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar was born in 100 BC into the Julii family, one of Rome's oldest aristocratic lineages. His family claimed descent from Venus, the goddess of love, through the Trojan hero Aeneas. It was a name rich with legend and prestige, but prestige no longer guaranteed power. By Caesar's time, the Julii were poor by noble standards. They lacked great estates, powerful allies, and military glory. Caesar did not inherit authority. He would have to build it himself. Rome during Caesar's childhood was violent and unstable. Civil wars erupted regularly. Political enemies were murdered openly in the streets. The law bent to whoever had strength behind them. Caesar grew up watching Rome destroy itself from within. From an early age, he learned a dangerous lesson. Laws do not protect the weak. Power does. When Caesar was still young, Rome fell under the rule of Lucius Cornelius Sulla, a general who marched on Rome with his army and declared himself dictator. Sulla ruled through fear. He published lists of enemies known as proscriptions. Anyone named could be killed legally. Their property was seized, their families ruined. Caesar was connected by marriage to Sulla's enemies. Sulla ordered him to divorce his wife. Caesar refused. That single act of defiance nearly cost him his life. Caesar fled Rome, hunted by Sulla's agents. He lived in hiding, constantly moving, surviving by chance and nerve. During this period, he was captured by pirates in the Mediterranean Sea. Instead of pleading, Caesar mocked them. He told them they did not understand who they had captured. He promised that once freed, he would return and crucify them. The pirates laughed. After his ransom was paid, Caesar raised a small fleet, hunted the pirates down, and crucified them exactly as promised. Even then, his character was clear. Eventually, Sulla spared Caesar, but not without a warning. Sulla reportedly said that in Caesar there were many Mariuses, many future tyrants. Even Sulla sensed the danger. After Sulla's death, Caesar returned to Rome with a single goal: rise or die trying. He studied law, philosophy, and rhetoric. He trained his voice, his gestures, his presence. Caesar understood something most Roman politicians ignored. Politics was theater. He dressed boldly, he spoke emotionally, he appealed directly to the people rather than hiding behind tradition. He portrayed himself as a champion of the common citizen against a corrupt aristocracy. Caesar spent enormous sums on public games, festivals, and monuments. Rome adored him. His popularity grew rapidly. To fund this image, Caesar borrowed massive amounts of money. He plunged himself into crushing debt, but Caesar believed power would erase debt. Once he reached the top, creditors would no longer matter. To climb higher, Caesar needed allies. He found them in two of the most powerful men in Rome. Pompey the Great, Rome's most successful general, loved by his soldiers and admired by the people. Marcus Licinius Crassus, the richest man in Rome, whose wealth allowed him to influence nearly every political decision. And Julius Caesar, the rising politician who understood how to command public loyalty. Together, they formed the first triumvirate. It was not legal, it was not official. It was a private agreement to dominate Rome. Through bribery, intimidation, and political pressure, the triumvirate bypassed the Senate entirely. Laws passed without debate. Opposition was crushed. Tradition was ignored. In return for his loyalty, Caesar received what he wanted most: a military command. In 58 BC, Caesar was appointed governor of Gaul. What appeared to be a distant provincial post became the forge of his legend. For nearly 10 years, Caesar waged relentless war across Gaul. Tribe after tribe fell. Cities were burned to the ground. Entire populations were slaughtered or enslaved. Modern estimates suggest that over 1 million people were killed and another million enslaved. Caesar crossed rivers thought impossible to pass. He built massive bridges in days. He crushed rebellions with brutal efficiency. He even invaded Britain, a land wrapped in myth, something no Roman general had ever done before. And throughout it all, Caesar wrote, his commentaries on the Gallic War transformed conquest into literature. Every campaign was framed as defensive. Every massacre justified as necessity. Rome devoured his words. Caesar became a living legend. More important than victory was loyalty. Caesar fought beside his soldiers. He shared their hardships. He rewarded bravery generously. He remembered names, faces, and stories. His men did not fight for Rome. They fought for Caesar. This terrified the Senate. Rome had seen this before. A general whose army was loyal was the greatest threat imaginable. The fear of kings returned. As Caesar's power grew, the triumvirate collapsed. Crassus died in a disastrous campaign in the east. Pompey drifted toward the Senate, aligning himself with conservative elites who feared Caesar's ambition. Caesar stood alone, commanding battle-hardened legions. The Senate demanded Caesar disband his army and return to Rome as a private citizen. Caesar knew what that meant. Without his army, he would face prosecution, exile, or death. In 49 BC, Caesar reached the Rubicon River, the legal boundary of his command. Roman law was clear. To cross it with an army was treason. Caesar paused. Then he crossed. The die is cast. Civil war erupted instantly. Pompey fled Italy. The Senate panicked. Caesar marched into Rome without resistance, presenting himself not as a conqueror, but as a protector of the people. Caesar pursued Pompey across the Mediterranean. The two armies met in Greece. Pompey was defeated and fled to Egypt seeking refuge. Instead, he was betrayed and murdered by Egyptian officials, hoping to gain Caesar's favor. When Caesar was presented with Pompey's severed head, he wept. Not from mercy, but because the last rival of his generation was gone. In Egypt, Caesar met Cleopatra VII, the young and brilliant queen fighting to reclaim her throne. Their alliance reshaped the eastern Mediterranean. Cleopatra regained power. Caesar gained wealth, influence, and a son. Rome whispered. By 46 BC, Caesar returned to Rome victorious. He celebrated triumph after triumph. He was granted honors beyond precedent. Absolute authority followed. Caesar enacted sweeping reforms. He rebuilt cities destroyed by war. He forgave debts. He expanded Roman citizenship. He reformed the calendar itself, creating the Julian calendar that still shapes time today. To the people, Caesar was a hero. To the Senate, he was a tyrant. Caesar publicly refused a crown, but he accepted divine honors. Statues were placed beside gods. He sat on golden thrones. He was named Dictator for life. Rome's ancient nightmare returned, the word king. A group of senators decided Caesar must die for the Republic to live. Among them was Marcus Junius Brutus, a man Caesar trusted deeply. On March 15th, 44 BC, the Senate convened. Caesar arrived unarmed. Daggers flashed. 23 wounds struck him down. When Caesar saw Brutus among his killers, he stopped resisting. The most powerful man in Rome collapsed at the feet of the Republic. The conspirators believed they had saved Rome. They were wrong. Caesar's death plunged the Roman world into chaos. Civil wars returned, bloodier than ever. His adopted heir, Octavian, emerged victorious. The Roman Republic ended. In its place rose an empire, ruled by emperors for centuries. Exactly what Caesar was killed to prevent. Julius Caesar never wore a crown, but he proved the Republic no longer worked. He showed Rome that one man could be stronger than tradition, law, and fear. Rome loved Caesar, and in loving him, it lost itself.